A concern about Ethiopia's future. Why equity in education matters. There is a question that has long troubled me. Why does Ethiopia remain poor despite its abundant natural resources? Ethiopia is rich in fertile land, minerals, water resources, and a young population. While rapid population growth creates challenges, it cannot by itself explain the country's persistent poverty. Many countries with larger populations and fewer natural resources have achieved remarkable economic progress. The difference lies in how resources are managed, how institutions function, how opportunities are distributed, and whether fairness and accountability are respected. Corruption beyond money. When people speak about corruption, they often think of bribery or the misuse of public funds. However, one of the most damaging forms of corruption is favoritism. Favoritism occurs when jobs, educational opportunities, promotions, or public services are given to relatives, friends, or people with personal connection rather than to those who deserve them through competence and merit. When this becomes common, institutions lose credibility, public trust declines, and talented people become discouraged. The real challenge, educational equity. Ethiopia has made impressive progress in expanding access to education. More schools have been built, and millions more children are now enrolled in school than in previous generations. However, access is not the same as equal opportunity. A child in one school may learn in a well-equipped classroom with qualified teachers, textbooks, computers, and internet access. Another child living only a few kilometers away may study in overcrowded classrooms with few learning materials and a shortage of trained teachers. Both children are officially in school, but they are not receiving the same education. The growing gap between rich and poor. The inequality becomes even more visible when we compare private and public schools. Children from wealthy families often attend schools with better facilities, smaller classes, modern technology, and additional academic support. Children from poor families rarely have these advantages. As a result, students from privileged backgrounds are often better prepared for national examination and have great access to competitive university programs. Meanwhile, equally talented students from disadvantaged families may miss these opportunities simply because they did not receive the same educational preparation. This is not a question of ability, it is a question of opportunity. The four pillars of education. A strong education system should be built on the following four essential pillars. 1. Access, ensuring that every child can attend school. 2. Relevance, making education responsive to the needs of learners and society. 3. Equity, providing fair opportunities regardless of background. 4. Quality, ensuring that education genuinely develops knowledge, skills, and character. Ethiopia has made progress in expanding access and it's working to improve relevance and quality. Yet, equity remains the weakest pillar, and without it, the benefits of education cannot be shared fairly. Equity means fair opportunity, nothing else. Equity is much broader than gender equality. It also means reducing the gap between urban and rural communities, between rich and poor families, and between advantaged and disadvantaged regions. A child's place of birth should not determine the quality of education he or she receives. Neither should family income decide a child's future. Why teachers matter? No education system can be better than the quality of its teachers. Teaching is one of the most important professions because teachers shape future generations. Unfortunately, when teachers receive low salaries, limited career opportunities, and insufficient social recognition, the profession becomes less attractive to talented young people. In the long run, this weakens the quality of education and ultimately affect national development. The risk for Ethiopia's future. If educational inequality continues, Ethiopia risks becoming a society divided into two worlds. One world will belong to those who can afford quality education and better opportunities. The other will belong to those whose potential is limited by poverty, geography, or unequal access to educational resources. Such a future would be both unjust and economically harmful because the country would fail to develop the talents of millions of capable young people. What should change? Educational reform should go beyond building more schools. We must ask more important questions. Are schools equally equipped? Do all students have access to qualified teachers? Are rural and urban schools receiving comparable support? Do poor children have the same opportunity to succeed as wealthy children? Are educational opportunities based on merits and needs rather than family connections or privilege? These are difficult questions, but they are essential for Ethiopia's future. Conclusion. For me, the true measure of educational development is not simply the number of schools or the number of students enrolled. It is whether every child, regardless of family background, has a fair chance to develop his or her potential. Access is important, relevance is important, quality is important, but without equity, education cannot become a true instrument of justice and national development. If Ethiopia wishes to build a prosperous, peaceful, and competitive future, it must ensure that talent, hard work, and the potential, not wealth, family connections, or favoritism, determine people's opportunities. That is the issue that concerns